In basically every stage of my life, there was a time when I was doing something or there's something I wanted to do and I saw somebody doing it at an insane scale, far better than me. People that I've grown up with, they're people that I'm in somewhat proximity to, having insane views, insane engagement. Somehow they know something that I don't. Or for me, it encapsulated everything. 4YE, I've been watching them since high school and just seeing the scale at which they produce things and create. Seeing them do clothing on the side, but then also having their skits, but then also having their podcast where they can be real and talk amongst each other. And just thinking, man, like, how do they do it? How do they keep coming out with these new things? And what is it that I'm doing wrong inside of all of this? And I'm sure that you felt this way too, whether that's seeing somebody with their amazing internship or job and you think, how did they get that? Or maybe they're insane at an instrument. Or maybe you're seeing one of your boys having his date with, his relationship of 5 years. Throughout your life, you can definitely see where there's just people who apparently just have it better. At least it seems that way. And it makes you think, and you're sitting in your bed and you're looking at all this stuff and you just ask, like, why is everyone doing better than me? What is it that I'm doing wrong? Why haven't I achieved that level of success that they have? Now, some people might think that this isn't necessarily a problem. Some people feel like this is good. This is how I'll stay on my toes. But we can't guarantee that this is the way our body will react. This feeling can affect relationships, the way that we work. So it's important that we understand how to deal with this emotion. But first, welcome to Mr.Yyetti. I believe that the way we conduct our business is the way that we conduct our lives. So why not have a better understanding of both? If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe so you stay notified of all of our content. Now, let's talk about why everybody is doing better than us. To better understand this question and this feeling, we need to understand why it happens, what its effect on us are, and how to cope with it. We're social beings. We're history's most connected generation. Unlike any time before us, we can see exactly how people are doing across the country. We have more data to compare our lives to. And now, this is good in that we can get information across and, we have globalization. It also means that we, for many people, have more competitors. And all of this can have different effects on you. And I think there are two things that can happen to you. It's either you're spurred to action and this makes you think, okay, I need to start working hard. I need to, get going, work on my own stuff. But there's the other side, which I feel is a lot more common in that it's inaction and you kind of give up and you're like, man, what's even the point of trying? Look how far along this person is. But there's an in-between point, I feel, where you get really in your head and you do a lot of, comparison or some other toxic things that I'm about to get into. One such thing is going band for band. Now, this is an action technically, but it's a really toxic one in that when we see that somebody is, let's say, they go bowling and they do a little bit of mini golf and they go clubbing or partying and they're at this party, that party, of this event, concert, whatever. And it makes us think, man, I am not outside enough. Like, I just stay home and, do nothing. Compared to this person, I'm living the most boring life of all time. And we start trying to overcompensate and we try to match the person. We try to be as interesting, as successful and pay our way there. Maybe you see somebody dresses really well and you're like, man, I just have like thrifted clothing. I got like blacks and whites and that's about it, right? So then we start spending in a way that, we go to a shop and we see a mannequin and it looks kind of nice. And we're like, yeah, I'll just buy everything on that mannequin, right? I need to be fashionable just like this person. We try to go band for band without realizing that this person cannot see anything that you're doing. Or maybe they can and now they're going band for band too. But we're not worried about like how that affects other people. We're worried about ourselves. this is a terrible financial strategy. But then even for yourself, you're getting inside of this tit for tat with not necessarily that person, but your own feeling of where you ought to be. And chances are that will never meet equilibrium. You'll always see somebody else who's doing a little bit more than what you're doing, and you feel you need to compete with that. There's another reaction that I did a presentation on for one of my marketing classes, and I forgot the name of it, but it's essentially where we have this like competitive cope, and we look at somebody's life. Let's say that they're super athletic and they go to the gym, they have a nice build, and we think to ourselves like, okay, they have the gym, they look nice, whatever, right? I have money, right? And we see this with a lot of insecure people. I mean, we're all a little bit insecure. I've done it a little bit inside of my life where I see somebody, they're having fun outside, they're doing this, they're doing that, and I'm sitting in the corner and I'm just like, well, I'm working on my career and I'm saving, I'm investing. So actually, I'm doing pretty well myself, aren't I? It's a phenomenon where our brain is trying to protect ourselves essentially from being completely depressed at the fact that we don't have this thing that we really desire, whether that's a better body, more money, more friends, more traveling. And we try to look at something we feel they don't have, or the cost of having that life, and we try to compare that. And out of all of these, the common denominator and the common feeling that all of these actions and copes and whatever have in common is that it will just leave you so dissatisfied with your life. Everything's a competition. Everybody in some way is doing better than you, and you have to kind of cope yourself and defend yourself from the feeling of feeling inferior. It's exhausting. It's tiring. And chances are it'll make you a really not great person to be around. When people give you those updates and they say, hey, I just got a new job. Oh, you got a new job? That's great. I'm going to Japan, actually. Right? Chances are you won't be a great person to be around. And you're only hurting yourself. At the end of the day, when you come back to your room, just be thinking, man, yes, I said I have money and I have my career and so on, but damn, they're going to Japan. They're going to Amsterdam. Like, I wish I was there. You know what I mean? And being dissatisfied with your life is not a great place to be, because hopefully you have a very long life, and being in that state is terrible. Like, that's so sad. You only have one life. You might as well be content with it, and have a sense of joy and pride in what you're doing and what you're working on. Which takes us into our way of coping with all of this and dealing with all of this. I'm sure this sounds familiar to most of you, in that you were trying so hard for a position. You were interviewing, you're preparing for it, and you finally get it, but you look over at somebody else and they're like, man, look at the position she has though. She's inside of this firm. Like, oh, I've been wanting that one. Like, yes, I'm happy with what I have, and the success that I've gotten, but like, look at that. Like, that is an achievement. The trick is to remember where you came from. I know, especially for myself, I had to look back at where I wanted to be when I was in high school or before that, and look at my progress, how far I've come since then. And even for yourself, look at where you wanted to be, whether that's moving out of your parents' house, finally living by your own rules. Maybe it's even the part-time job that you always wanted. For me, when I finally got my first part-time, like, that was huge for me. I was finally making my own money, and it was inside of a pretty big brand. It was Sports Check at the time. That was my first one. I remember like thinking, okay, I did my first ever interview. I got in. I'm working for this brand, whatever. But then, like, you move the goalposts, and then I was like, oh man, I want to work at like Foot Locker. That's where I wanted to work first, and I got rejected from there. Fast forward a few years, I got there, but then the goalpost changes, right? in each of those instances, it's so important to look at just where you've come, how much you've achieved. Maybe that's learning an instrument, whether that's, I could go on and on and on. Remembering where you came from is super important. And it's how you'll stop comparing yourself with other people, because now you're just comparing yourself with yourself. I've gotten to this point. I have achieved something that I was praying for, and I got it. Chances are I'll probably get the next thing that I'm aspiring for, so why stress so much? Something I want you to really leverage is picking inspiration over comparison. When you see someone do something really well, or they're a master of their craft, or they're growing exponentially in that thing, instead of thinking to yourself, man, they're doing that, but look at what I'm doing. Or you see them doing that and you say, okay, but like, I could probably do it better. Sometimes I did that. I'd see someone playing the saxophone and I think to myself, okay, like I could probably do that if I focused on the saxophone enough, right? There's a good way of saying that, and I'll get into that, but this idea of comparing yourself with other people is not healthy. Instead, when you see someone working at something, try to think about something that has nothing to do with that you could probably work on a little bit harder as well, right? When you see someone playing the piano like an absolute master, think to yourself, man, I should learn how to play chess, right? I should probably work harder at something else, that inspired me to work harder at this. When we get inspired by the world around us and the beauty that we see around us, we're just gonna be happier people, genuinely, because you derive happiness from seeing other people happy. Your friend comes to you and says, oh my goodness, I got proposed to, I'm a fiance now. For some people, it's like, you're getting married before me. I can't believe this, right? When you look at that, you should be happy that someone else found love. Learn to be happy when other people are happy, when people achieve their goals. When you learn to be that way, you're not comparing yourself with anyone. You're not competing with anyone. But there is someone you should compete with. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. The most effective strategy, and I think the best advice I have for you, is this: work on a goal, work on a project. Have something in mind that you're doing and trying to achieve, and chances are you will be way too busy to even feel jealous. When you're working on your own thing, you don't have time to be jealous. And even if you do have the time, you're not gonna be so defensive about whether what you're working on is better than what the other person's working on. Work on it with all of your might, put all of your attention into that. And when you see other people doing things, you get inspired for your own work. But when you have too much time on your hands, and all of your time is spent just scrolling and seeing other people's lives, yeah, you're gonna feel threatened by their success and what they have going on, because quite frankly you feel like you have nothing going on for yourself. But instead, be reflective. Remember where you came from. Look at where other people came from and learn to be really appreciative of their process and inspired by their story. And look at other people's lives as inspiration for your own, and look at the obstacles they went through. Look at their triumphs and learn from those. When you have this view, your life will be so much better. You'll be happier more often, and chances are you'll be a better person to be around because you genuinely celebrate with other people. This is something even I'm still working on. I'm learning to look at other people's wins and see that as a awesome thing, and not comparing my life to other people's lives, and realizing that I'm on my own journey and that's okay. But then also thinking back to, the little boy that I was like years ago, and how I'm living the life that that kid wanted me to live, right? I'm living a life that that kid dreamed about and wouldn't shut up about, and you know, when I grow up I'm gonna be this and that, and how I've achieved some of those things, and that's something to be celebrated, right? Not something to be compared to somebody else's success or any of that. It's something that you look at and you say, I've done pretty good, right? But what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Is this something that you struggle with as well? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about it with you guys. Make sure to watch my other videos and let me know what you think about those ones as well. And until next time, I hope